Thank you for sharing this, because there's other sides to this conversation, definitely. And I wanted to get into this conversation because for me, as an anti-racist and as a pastor who tackles racism in the body of Christ as well as in Latino communities, I felt it was important to talk about how racism, and even worse, normalized forms of racism, affect relationships. And I wanted to start with what a lot of people don't talk about, which is the fetishism and the forbidden factor and the whole subject of taboo when it comes to traditional Latino homes where the families are racist and how they feel towards Black Americans. So I really wanted to start there. But there's another side of that where there are women, and I'm not saying this is you, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but there are women in the Latino community that have been traumatized by relationships with Latino men. And they've been, unfortunately, subjected to relationships, whether it be romantic relationships or even their relationships with their fathers or other men in their family, where they've been traumatized or they've been very hurt and disappointed, and it's really turned them away from wanting to have any type of romantic relationship with a Latino man, where they just don't want a household where a Latino man is at the head, where he's at the helm. There are some Latina women that really hated the racism that they grew up with. They became disgusted with their parents' racism, and they were determined that they wanted nothing to do with it, and they were not going to pass on that evil legacy. So they became very determined to only have relationships with Black men, or to start a family with a Black man, as a way to connect with the Blackness that they were not allowed to connect with in their own home. And this is even in homes where the whole family is visibly Black, but there is a rejection of Blackness. So you see there are some Latino women that really felt that, and they hated that. And they found a connection with Black partners where they felt the freedom to love themselves and be embraced in their Blackness. And they saw an opportunity to start a family where Blackness was something that could be celebrated instead of something that had to be demonized and denied. And of course, we have to talk about the fact that, yes, there are some Latina women, just like there are some white women, that just want mixed babies. They want to have children that have that biracial look, just like there are some Black men who have the same motivation, that they look for fair-skinned partners to make sure that their kids are going to look a certain way. And whether they seek out those partners in their own Black community or Latino community or white community, we all know that this happens, right? And lastly, of course, they're just people who just fall in love with people because of who they are, right? Everybody's motivation for seeking out a partner doesn't have to be race, and we all know that, absolutely. Even in my first video where I'm talking about bettering the race, mejorar la raza, within that, of course, every single relationship between light-skinned and dark-skinned people in Latin America is not motivated by bettering the race, right? And the same applies here, in this conversation, that people would just fall in love and want to marry someone because you just love that person. You're drawn to that person. And on an even deeper level, spiritually, there's something that draws you to that person. There's a purpose in that person's life that is meant for you, and vice versa. And it's just as simple and as deep as that, right? So thanks again for sharing.